I feel like one of my eyebrows is like up and then the other one is down. Do you see it?
No, look at me. No,
they're the same.
yeah,
They're both
they look
this
the same
way.
to me. Yeah.
If Duane is lying to me,
Oh my god, I like it.
it's okay.
Jesus.
Ah, yeah. Can you start the Alright.
Hi babes, welcome back to our channel. We've missed you guys. You know, we have skipped one of our Wednesdays in the past couple of weeks, so we just want to apologize for that. Things have been a bit busy on our end. We're going through life changes.
Big life changes.
Yes, so we've been a little bit caught up, but as always, we're back as usual. And today we're talking about actually a very interesting topic. Yesterday I was at a traditional ceremony of sorts. I don't know, it wasn't Aurora show. It was like
a dowry negotiation.
Yes, it was a dowry negotiation of sorts. So we decided, you know, we're African women in Africa.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna talk about bride price when it comes to our time. So why not just talk about the topic, as you know, in whole, and what we think about it. So as usual, please tell us what you think. These are just young African women expressing themselves, so we'd actually love on this topic to hear you guys' thoughts about the idea of dowry, bride price, etc. So I guess we'll talk about what we think about it, why we think that's why we think what we think, and what we think moving forward about it. So why don't you go first?
I knew it.
Yes.
Anyway, it's okay. I can go first. Dowry. First of all, I'll start by saying that if it was up to me, I would not want my dowry to be paid. Really, I would. Like, I don't want
there are people out there waiting for this
person to pay for dowry, but it's not up to me, it's up to my parents. And knowing my parents, they will definitely expect dowry and proper dowry for my education and for all those things that I have been through. But like, personally, I don't believe in the concept of dowry, because in its sense itself, I'm literally paying for Duane to be my wife. That's my interpretation of it. I feel like my husband is paying so he can take me from my parents. And I just feel like there should be no price tag on me and other women. I feel like if this is the man you want to be with and he wants to be with you, then, you know, just go ahead and do your thing. I don't understand why I have to pay or he has to pay for me. But then again, it goes back to tradition and all of that, things that were set in place before we were born. But then I don't know what my husband would feel about it, but I would not want my kids, like if I'm going to have daughters, I would not expect for their husbands to pay for them. Like if my daughter comes to me and they're like, Mom, I met this guy and like we're engaged and like we want to get married, we're in love and whatever, I'm like, okay, like when can I meet him, like whatever, you know, like I just don't believe in the concept of paying for someone so you can marry them. I don't believe in it. I believe in like the whole traditional ceremony, like the whole ratio, whatever. I would want to do that minus the paying part.
What if your husband said to you, babe, but I want to pay for you?
No, I'm saying it's not up to me, because I feel like it boils down to my parents. But if it was him and he wants to pay for me, I'd be like, no. Like if my parents were okay with him not paying, I'd be like, no, can we use that money to like start a business, buy a car, buy something, invest in something, you know, like why are you paying for me? I want to be with you, you want to be with me, let's get married. Like, I don't want your money. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I just feel like literally it's just paying for someone, and I feel like it somehow also demeans women in some sense, and it makes men feel like I own you, so I can have sex with you whatever time I want. I can beat you if you cross the line. I can, like, you're literally my property because I paid your parents this amount, this number of goats or cows or whatever, so I own you, you're my property. And I feel like we're way ahead of that thinking in the 21st century.
I think there was like a story this friend was telling me about this babe who cheated on her husband. Bear in mind, the husband had cheated on her first and had begged her to forgive him, and then like I think a year or so later she got drunk and then she cheated on him, and she actually told him, and she was like, I want to tell you because it wasn't planned, like I don't remember, I'm really sorry. And then he like drags her in front of her father's house and throws her, and is basically like, look at what I paid for, like this is what you gave me, you know. So
It's a problem.
It really, you know, I agree with the idea of it's puts a price tag on a woman, you know, even for the men of today who are like very, you know, progressive and forward thinking. It's a subconscious thing, you know. If he's still going to put money together and bring goats and cows, subconsciously in his mind, you know, he has kind of sort of paid for you. So like, if you come tomorrow and you're like, I'm packing out of this house, you know, blah blah blah,
where are you going?
Exactly,
He's like,
where are you
You're
going?
my property.
Like,
it's like your car saying it's going to drive itself out of the
yes,
I paid for you. Where are you going?
I don't understand, you know. So I find dowry to be a very interesting concept. Also because because both ways I understand dowry, which is like the African way and the Indian way,
where you
it's
pay.
still it still somehow boils down to the idea of the woman, right? So I mean,
wait, why is it the Indian woman who pays for the man?
So the idea is she's leaving this family, right, to go and join his family. So you're almost paying in terms of like, now you are taking this burden kind of off of us, and you will now take care of her. So we are paying you to as a way to say thank you, and as a way to cover, you know, any expenses here or there that our daughter may incur while living in your household. So there are many interpretations of this, but like that's basically the, like, I mean, if you just think about it, like, why is a bride's father paying the husband for marrying her? It's like, thank you for marrying my daughter.
Thank you.
Here, go collect money, you know. And then the same thing, so it's almost in that sense like the woman is a burden, like she's property that's just being passed on from person to person, family to family. And in Africa it's the same concept. I know now many people say, oh, but now it's more like ceremonial than anything else. And yes, that's true, it is more ceremonial now than anything else. But people,
and I actually like the ceremony.
Yeah, the ceremony of it is beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
But that concept behind it, like the fact that elders still sit at a table without the daughter, but with the husband,
and
to discuss how he should come and pay for her. You know, like there's just something, you know what, in fact, maybe I wouldn't have a problem with dowry if I was sitting in the room there and I'm like, yeah, my guy, so let's do it like this.
I did my masters,
yes,
and then you know, like,
I did this, you know, I did that.
Add a million to that.
Exactly. But at the same time, me can also say he did his masters. He also, you know, went to school. He has a PhD. At the same time, I really don't understand the concept of paying down. Like, you're making this man fork out money for bride price, and you are sending your daughter into his household. So this person has just removed money. You now want her to go and stay with the man that now is how many cows poorer than he was.
No, but the whole thing is they want to see how capable you are of taking care of.
Well, definitely less capable now that you're
able to pay all this money. Then okay, you can.
I'm broke now, nigga. That's what I mean. It's not that I can. Now I paid all this money. I'm broke. I am broke. So I think it also makes people view having kids differently. Like, oh, now I have a son, you know, I have to pay bride price and negotiate. If I have a daughter, I'm just sitting and waiting for the bride. You know, it further exaggerates all these gender disparities. We don't need to be exaggerated more than they are today. Like, so for me, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Me neither. I feel like the change, and this is something Duani and I always keep saying, I feel like the change that is going to happen with our current generation, because definitely our parents are still in the generation where they believe in dowry and bride price and all of that, but then I know, like, we don't believe in it, and I'm sure there are very many other people who don't believe in it. And if we could slowly break the norm, like we could slowly like do it. But then also I know there are people who are going to argue, why are we trying to run away from our tradition and whatever. But then it's the same thing we keep saying on this channel. Just because you have grown up knowing something doesn't mean that you continue living your life accepting it. Like, if you don't, like, if it's not in the same mind, like if you're not in the same, what do I say, like if you don't believe in it, you don't have to keep doing it just because it's your tradition or just because you are raised to think like that. Like, you have a mind of your own, you can make opinions for yourself, you can make decisions for yourself. So please don't come for us trying to tell us we're trying to be
but
Western
also, guys,
or whatever.
This whole
like,
thing, it really annoys me when people bring up this whole conversation of is tradition. Guys, culture, if there's one thing culture is, it's dynamic. It changes constantly. Like, what is tradition today might not have been tradition 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300, 400. So when we sit down and say, oh, why do you want to change these things? They're tradition. See how popular Sharon is. We cannot even
I'll call her later.
We can't even YouTube. Anyway, the idea of like, oh, it's tradition, one-off, for me, it's such a coward's argument. Because that's just a lie. Like, tradition changes every single day. So why do we use that as like but you know, it is what it is. And I guess for the whole bride price thing, I would just honestly, just for the sake of letting my parents, you know, although I find I find it even difficult to let that come out of my mouth, because
I beg my sister, your bride price is going to be paid.
Because honestly, even my mom knows that I feel some type of way about these things.
So do
like,
mine.
You know, I'm sitting there and you guys are going with uncles, and like, okay, so my dad passed away when I was young. I have maybe 2 or 3 uncles who've like been there for me since then. And even then, the concept that they would, you know, go...
Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys.
The concept that they would go and sit down in a room without me to talk about my value, for me just sounds... You know, I would rather even let me get married to a man who can help me take care of my mother in her old age. You know, but not a thing of come, let's pay bride price because she has been to Harvard and Princeton, and then she went and did a job at Goldman Sachs. You know, it bothers me so much, because at the end of the day, these things leak into people's heads. This guy can be progressive and be like, babe, you know, I don't care, we're just doing it for tradition's sake. Tomorrow you people will be arguing, you won't even know where it came from. He will just be like, after all, were you cheap? And you're like, wait, what? And he's like, when your uncles were dead, you know, arguing your bride price, you didn't know. Now you are coming to argue with me. My friend, can you shut up? So, me, I don't want to be blindsided in my future, man. I don't want to be blindsided. That's,
So what is the conclusion of this topic?
Don't be paid for. Don't be blindsided.
Don't pay for women.
Don't pay for women.
You cannot put a price tag on a whole human being. Our conclusion is that don't be afraid to break from the norm. Don't be afraid to go against tradition, to go against culture. If it's not something that you believe in, you don't have to keep doing it. I personally don't have a choice because it's not up to me, but then I am going to do it with the next generation, with my children. I will not expect anyone to pay dowry for them. And if my children, like if my daughters want to be paid for, then it's cool, but I will definitely try to have this conversation with them, and try to reason out with them. But then also at the end of the day, they're still individuals,
so they have to make up their own minds.
Can still make up their own minds. But I want to go against
the grain
and just do me.
No, I also, just the idea that bride price not reduces, but it puts a woman's value on the table for bargaining. Because I remember a conversation I was having one time about bride price, some family friend of ours, and then I think like the bride price of the babe was high or something, and then it now even brought up this conversation of like, why are they even asking us for this kind of high bride price? Where has she gone to school? You know, like that kind of conversation would never arise if we were just not, you know,
doing it,
bargaining on her in the first place. Like, because then you start to question things that you shouldn't be questioning. Like, you know, this babe and this guy have agreed to marry, so why are you questioning? You know, you're now starting to really evaluate, where did she go to school, what kind of job does she even have, how much money is she making, that her family is asking. I know babes who are more educated that their bride price is cheaper less. You know, it's,
no, please don't pay for me.
It becomes so, it really puts our value there on the table, and it's like, yes, now this is property for us to bargain on. You know, imagine having, it's like I have property in Lavington, I'm like, yes, it's close to Lavington more. And it's this, you cannot offer me anything less than, you know, 3 million, because how many other properties out there have this kind of proximity to all the shopping malls? Literally makes me feel that way. So I despise things that make women, like, make even a possible tradition or no tradition, because people always use, oh, but it's culture, oh, but it's ceremonial. Whether or not it is, when something is continuously done, even in shallow practice, right, like eventually it sticks in people's heads, right? So for me, anything that is done to negotiate the value of a woman, or, you know, her importance, or even in something as equal, at least in my mind, it's something as equal as a marriage, which is the true definition of partnership, right? Even then, it's diluted by this idea of, let's negotiate how much one of the people in this marriage is worth. I just think that's, like, we're opening ourselves up for disaster, more or less. And if we could avoid it, like, if we could find new traditions, you know, like find a way to celebrate that it's a woman coming into the home, same way find a way to celebrate that it's a man coming into a home, instead of us trying to put price tags on people's heads and say, oh, but it's ceremonial. If it's ceremonial, then don't even collect a bottle of wine. Just sit at the table and drink wine together and laugh and talk and and let's talk about how great both the couple, you know, the people in the couple are. But let's not objectify or monetize anyone.
Exactly.
It creates a lot of complexity that does not need to be there. Tomorrow, me, I don't need a nigga to be like, get out of my house because, you know, I paid for you and now you are defective.
Bye.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it for this conversation. Please tell us your thoughts down below in the comment section. And thank you so much for watching. Every time we have a new video up, it means so much to us.
Yes.
And we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.